Welcome everyone, I'm Adesewa Josh and this is Africa Matters. This week we find out how the Tanzanian government's plan to demarcate a game reserve is affecting the ancestral land of the Maasai people a year later. And we'll see how a farm in Namibia is using Turkish Kangal dogs to reduce the conflict between livestock herders and cheetahs as the conservation debate rages on across the continent. On June 6 last year, the Tanzanian government announced plans to turn an entire village where the nomadic Maasai tribe live into a game reserve. Nearly 30,000 Maasai people were evicted from Loliondo, and about 100,000 are at risk of being forcefully evicted from the Ngorongoro district. A new Amnesty International report accuses the Tanzanian security forces of destroying homes, impounding livestock, and stealing property belonging to the community, calling it a violation of the Maasai's rights to land, livelihood, and culture. But the government insists it wants to protect the environment near the famous Serengeti National Park, which is designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So, how did we get here? Successive governments have claimed that the Maasai population, which has grown exponentially over the years, poses a risk to the country's wildlife and conservation efforts in the region. However, Human Rights Watch alleges it's because the government has granted tourism and trophy hunting licenses to big corporations. Protests and calls for dialogue have failed to deter the government. Instead, the government adopted a revised Wildlife Conservation Act last year to stop livestock grazing in game reserves. And when the Maasai asked the East African Court of Justice to intervene, the regional court ruled that the government's decision to cordon off land for wildlife protection was legal, and that much of the evidence of alleged violence and brutality against the community was difficult to prove. Now let's hear more from Joseph Oloshangai, a human rights lawyer and an activist. He joins me from Arusha, Tanzania. Thank you so much for speaking to us. First of all, what is the situation in Loliondo now, and of course in Ngorongoro?
Thank you very much for having me this afternoon, almost here. Briefly, the situation in Loliondo, and to start with that place, is very dire in my opinion. You remember last year, the government invaded the place with the military, attacked many people. Almost tens of them were wounded, almost 41. Many were arrested, almost 159, and over 30,000 people has been displaced in overnight by 28 June. So we are talking of almost thousands of people homeless. Many of them ran to Kenya by the time as refugees, many internally finding some refuge with the other Maasai settlement. And what followed afterward, because the Maasai have lost the land, have lost homes and everything. And then the government started seizing the livestock. For until May this year, more than 11,000 livestock has been seized. And seized because the Maasai have no any other grazing area in Loliondo other than that.
This is a very tough balancing act even for the government. What sort of policy would you say would be a middle ground between conservation and, of course, preserving the culture and the livelihood of indigenous people like the Maasai?
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's very simple, and I wish the government would have been listening to us. Over centuries, Maasai has been living in that place with their cattle, but of course with millions of wild animals. The place we are referring to, Ngorongoro, Serengeti, Loliondo, Maasai Mara, is home to the largest migrations of terrestrial animals on Earth. Why is that happening? Because the Maasai have means to preserve. So the middle ground, I think, is to have a conservation philosophy that does not see communities that bear the burdens of conservation as enemy to conservation. The Maasai know better than any professors of this world how to keep the animals and the cattle together. Those animals has been living with the Maasai without any sort of shyness, any sort of like bad feelings. You can see, you go to Ngorongoro, you see the zebra and the cow mixing. but the people come with some philosophy from a known world and thinks this is how it works. So the balance is to get away with the fortress conservation that does not respect human rights, which actually does not even take care of the welfare of the animals. Actually, the Maasai are being displaced to replace them with the hunters. Is that
How do
conservation?
you
No.
then describe
Is
the
that
allegations, Joseph, of depleting wildlife at a time where their population is growing, your population is growing, and there is encroachment? We've heard stories of livestock being killed, like we've heard in Kenya. And in fact, specifically in Brikani village, had about 10 lions killed in May just because there has been development in the area. So it's a tough balancing act. How do you react to that?
okay? I live actually born in Ngorongoro, is where my permanent place is. I know over years that I was growing as a kid to another person who have been living with the animals. So, for example, because they say encroachment, Maasai are not encroaching those places. They live, that's their home. And of course, is also homes to the animals. How can we create a balance between, for example, the population growth, which we cannot deny, the Maasai, like any other population, are growing. But the Maasai have given, of course, without their consent, entire Serengeti National Parks. We are referring over 14,000 kilometers. Then, of course, is that not enough for conservation if we are to believe in this conservation that tend to separate man from nature? I don't believe in that. I don't believe, again, that the cause of the animal killing, for example, the lions and others, is because of incompatibility between conservations and pastoralism. Is not. It is for some, whether by the Maasai, whether by any other person, is not because of incompatibility. It is because of some other, anyone can become a criminal. For example, if an animal attack the cows, and they always attacks even in Ngorongoro, the place that I say I live, does that means unless it is like home place, like dangerous animals, then you can take measures at least to control, but is not in a higher magnitude. But the same people say is for welfare of the animal. I said that's place for hunting now. So are you displacing like 30,000 people to replace with another person to come and kill? Will that help conservation? Will that help the lions,
It's
the zebra, the gazelles?
Yeah,
No,
it's a
it
tough
actually
question.
depletes them more than anything.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's a very tough question. So what's next for your community now? You have gone to the East African court to complain. You lost in September, I believe. What's the next line of legal action you're about to take?
Okay, we have already taken many, but for clarity purpose, the case we lost in last year, September, was not about the last year violence, was about an attempt in 2017, again, to take the same lands. And we filed the case in court in 2017, and the judgment was issued last year. You read that judgment, the government admitted the now disputed land is a village land for the Maasai. They, however, said, and the court agreed, that the eviction in 2017 took place within Serengeti National Park and not within 1,500 square kilometers. We have appealed against that decision. We are now awaiting for the judgment of the appellate court. But with what happened last year, we have again filed several cases in our judicial system, our courts, challenging the decision of the minister and of the president, because the minister declared the same area as a game controls. Then subsequently, the president declared it as a game reserve. We challenged that in the High Court of Tanzania. The hearing has been conducted at least. And also, with the nature of the operation, violence and things like that, we filed another case in the East African Courts of Justice because we believe it is in violation of the East African Treaty that says state party must respect the rule of law, must observe good governance, democracy, which were not there anyhow.
Right.
So we are in court, of course. Yes.
Thank you so much, Joseph Oloshangai. We'll keep an eye on the story, and thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us on Africa Matters. The global cheetah population is falling by more than 90% over the last century, and there are about 7,000 cheetahs left in the world. One of the main reasons for this sharp decline in numbers is that farmers are killing the cats to prevent them from hunting their animals. But one farm in Namibia has turned to Turkish Kangal dogs to act as guardians, and they're protecting both livestock and the cheetahs themselves. Vitalio Angula reports from Windhoek.
Every morning, Tate Philippus takes his goats and sheep into the savannah to graze. Alongside him is his trusted partner, April, a Kangal dog native to Turkey.
When I wake up in the morning, I take out the goats. The dog runs in front of the goats and marks its territory. It does this to deter any would-be predators. You know, over here, we have a lot of wild animals.
The Cheetah Conservation Fund, which runs research, educational and conservation programs in the region, breeds these dogs for farmers to help protect their livestock and prevent herders from killing cheetahs and leopards if they attack their animals.
Once the puppies turn 4 weeks of age, we put them in with the goats, and then instinctively they just know. So basically all I have to do is put them in with the goats and they just know. And they are also very protective as well. They create a bond between the goats and themselves, and they see the goats as their family. So anything or any predator that tries to come to the goats, they will protect.
The imposing dogs are big and strong enough to fight off wolves and bears. In Namibia, cheetahs and leopards are the problem. 80% of cheetahs, an endangered species, occur on farmland, where they threaten goats and sheep. Justin Moya has worked at the Cheetah Conservation Fund for 5 years. His duties include feeding the cheetahs that live at the conservancy. Most of them have ended up here due to predator competition, human conflict, or the illegal pet trade and can't be released into the wild.
If a farmer has been losing livestock and he sees a cheetah during the day, because cheetahs hunt mostly during the day, early morning and in the afternoon. And so a farmer is more likely to see a cheetah during the day than he would see a leopard. So if he has been losing livestock and he sees a cheetah, he immediately thinks it's the same predator that has been killing the livestock, and that is how they end up getting shot.
With the support of the Turkish embassy, the Cheetah Conservation Fund is helping to minimize that human-wildlife conflict. The Kangal dogs have helped reduce livestock losses by 80%, meaning farmers no longer have a reason to kill the cheetahs. A win-win situation for all. Talio Angula, Africa Matters, Ochuarongo, Namibia.
And it's a very similar situation in Kenya's Berkani village, where humans and wildlife are in a fierce competition for land and food. Last month, 10 lions were killed for attacking livestock belonging to residents. And though it's illegal to kill wild animals in Kenya, residents say the situation has left them with little choice. Samaya Jailan reports.
Lions and humans have long been rivals in Kenya's Mibirikani village. And in many instances, the feud is over food.
Since the old days, we believed that when a lion invades your home and eats your cows, it will still return even after 10 years. It will never forget that your home was once a source of food.
Lately, the lions aren't just breaking into homes in search of food, but also for shelter. The population of lions and pastoralists in Kajiado County, where Mibiriani is located, has risen significantly in recent years, causing lions and livestock to run into each other more often. Conservationists say rapid infrastructure development in one of Kenya's notable natural wildlife habitats is part of the problem.
This wild animal needs space, including predators. So we are losing a habitat, very important habitats for predators, because of land subdivision and people resort to selling of land. And then human population also becoming a challenge, because we have homestead coming up in every other area, urbanization, we have roads and power lines coming up every other space. So it's a challenge to have so many predators in one area, so many other herbivores in one area.
It's a criminal offense to kill lions and other endangered species in Kenya, and violators could be sentenced to life in prison or ordered to pay a fine of 20 million Kenyan shillings. But herders say it's a risk they're willing to take, as the number of lions killed reached 10 in May. Both the government and conservation groups offer compensation to pacify herders whose livestock are killed by predators. But herders say it doesn't cover the losses.
There is a significant disparity between the value of livestock and the amount of money that we receive for compensation. Cows are expensive and can cost as much as 80,000 Kenyan shillings. One cannot compare 80,000 Kenyan shillings to 30,000 Kenyan shillings. We receive very little compensation. That is why we become angry, and despite receiving compensation, we come out and kill the lions.
Mibirikani herders are also battling the worst drought to hit East Africa in 4 decades, as many struggle to find water and pasture for their livestock. Conservationists say the impact of climate change could intensify the battle for resources, pitting wildlife against humans for survival. Sumaya Jaylon, Africa Matters.
The Gambia's pristine beaches have proven irresistible for local and foreign tourists from all over the world. Tourism accounts for about 20% of the country's gross domestic product. But these natural assets are being destroyed through industries like sand mining. Memuna Bar reports from Batonkuku near the capital, Banjul.
Sand mines like this are common along the Gambia's 80-kilometer Atlantic coastline. Kausu Jabi says he has been mining for about a decade and a half, and it usually takes about 2 years before they have to move to another site.
Where we are mining at Batokunku, the minerals are not a lot. Therefore, we have stopped mining and are thinking of moving to another coastal area, though it has an environmental impact because trees have to be cut down.
Here on the Banjul coast, sand mining is the predominant occupation. It was an attractive location, but persistent mining has created an artificial valley. On nearly all the beaches are traders trying to earn a living, and they have not been spared from the effect of sand mining.
I've been doing this business on the beach for 7 years now, and I've really seen the effect sand mining has caused on our beach. Because we used to have a lot of shore on the bank of the beach, it used to be wide, but nowadays we're losing our shore. We used to plant a lot of coconuts on the shore. Through sand mining, the coconut has begun to fall because they are losing the sand under them. The sea is coming on the shore and is affecting us a lot.
Environmental campaigners warn that sand mining could see islands like Banjul washed away by the beginning of the 21st century if it does not stop.
The solution to sand mining around the coast of the River Gambia would be to actually, employ other sources of construction materials to go on with our business. For instance, we have the earth. Clay is a very good building material. We can use it to build art blocks and use it for our construction purposes. We could also employ waste items such as tires and plastics that keeps getting burnt on our landfills. All of these could be sourced as construction materials and upcycled, which would overall be good for the environment. But continuous sand mining along the coast of the River Gambia is an alarming situation.
As the world continues to battle with environmental disasters, the Gambia is in grave danger if the destruction of the country's beaches continues. The problem is that many of its young people depend on sand mining to survive. Without alternative employment, there are fears that this could lead to increased joblessness and disperse Gambians' population. Maimuna Ba, Africa Matters, Banjul, the Gambia.
We switch gears now and head to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which the World Bank says is among the 5 poorest nations in the world. Over 60% of the population lived on less than $2.15 a day in 2022. Young mothers are one of the most vulnerable groups in society, and they often struggle to pay childbirth expenses. But one businesswoman has embarked upon her own personal crusade, as Rahul Radhakrishnan explains.
Debt has trapped this teenage mother and her twins. It's been 3 weeks since the birth, but they can't settle their hospital bill in the DRC's capital, Kinshasa. So Congolese businesswoman Grace Mbangi Umek has made it her mission to help these mothers.
As far as my objective is concerned, it's clear. I want this to stop. I want women in my country to give birth in good conditions and not be held hostage because they cannot pay.
To make a $150 payment for a cesarean section, the twins' grandmother had been working as a cleaner in the maternity clinic to free her 16-year-old girl.
This is why we're staying here. The doctor told us we had to until we had the money to pay. I myself am starting to sweep the hospital. I do maintenance for the hospital to have something to pay them. But yesterday, the doctor informed us that there is a certain Madame Grace who will come to free us.
The lack of universal health coverage exposes new mothers to expensive hospital-assisted births. President Felix Tshisekedi's government is ratifying a new law that will make health services free for needy groups.
That's still considering the free maternity care law, which guarantees that these women benefit from free maternity care. So I said to myself, why not help these women have their fundamental rights? The right of a woman not to be detained in a maternity hospital just because she's given birth.
Teenage fertility rate is high in the country. Nearly a third of women between the age of 15 and 19 years have begun childbearing.
Most of the girls who give birth here are near minors, 16 years of age. When you ask the question, where is your husband? The answer is, I don't know. Sometimes the husband has run foul of his responsibility because he does not work.
Hospital officials say they risk closure if they keep discharging patients who haven't paid in full. So most new mothers have to raise money and pay up before they can take their babies home. Rahul Radhakrishnan, Africa Matters.
Into Cameroon now, where a former tennis national champion is helping the country's talented juniors inch towards a dream. He's running free training at a campus about 32 kilometers from the commercial capital, Douala. And he hopes the Grand Slam in tennis refers to the remarkable feat of winning all 4 major championships in a single calendar year. Bushra Guptash reports.
Cameroon's young tennis stars smash economic barriers by earning a spot at the Oyabok Tennis Academy in the town of Souza. It offers free training for underprivileged youth. And around 12,000 junior players like Dolel Manenstop have big dreams.
My idol is Serena Williams. I always wanted to be like her. My parents didn't have enough money to enroll me in a tennis academy, so I joined the Oyabok Tennis Academy to achieve my dreams.
The academy was formed in 1999 by former national champion Joseph Oyabok to provide free or low-cost tennis training. It now has 25 centers across the nation.
This would give the young girls and young boys the vision of seeing how the professional tennis players themselves really take care of business. Hopefully this will steer their minds towards the right ambition, the right aim, and then they can follow their passion from there.
The academy has helped Manenstop become a national champion in the 13 to 15 years category.
If I had to pay for everything to get her where she is today, I would never have been able. We barely struggled to survive. Earlier, I was in the field because we have to fight a lot to have something to eat. So we really have to thank the founder of the Oyabok Tennis Academy.
Since graduating from the academy, some juniors have won scholarships for further training abroad, and over 20 of them are already in the rankings of the International Tennis Federation.
In 3, 4, 5 years, I see myself winning a Grand Slam.
A dream they hope to achieve despite all odds. Bushra Göktaş, Africa Matters.
And for our Africa City profile this week, we explore Kitwe, Zambia's second largest city. The mineral-rich city is home to one of the world's largest copper mines and boasts rich deposits of other minerals, including cobalt and emerald. Let's take a closer look. And that's our show this week. Kindly share your thoughts and suggestions about the stories you've seen on this episode or ideas on what you would like us to cover on Twitter using the hashtag Africa Matters. Feel free to reach out to me on my personal handle at Adesewa Josh. You can watch this episode and more on YouTube. Just search Africa Matters TRT World. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next week.